They do. I am Josh Jones, ESQ. Welcome to Beats, Rhymes, and Crimes Live, the number one place to get information about law and hip hop by the culture, for the culture. We here out here doing it for y'all, man. So been off for a couple of weeks, man. I missed the energy from being on here with y'all talking about what's going on. So before we get into it, man, if you are about my age, man, and you ever heard of Booty Talk, man? We got some stuff going on today dealing with an actress from Booty Talk suing Diddy, and we're gonna definitely be breaking that down, man. So shout out to everybody that know what I'm talking about. If you don't, that's cool too. So we're just gonna keep it moving, man. So as you know, I am Josh Jones, ESQ, and I am live from the 305 Miami-Dade County. This is where we come each and every week. And let me know where you're watching from, because it's always cool to know where people are at so that we can try to make the show more relatable for you. So while you're typing in where you're from, it's been a pretty good week for me, wrapping it up, you know. So so yesterday was the 4th of July, and the yesterday was the 4th of July, and we were off from work, not really celebrating the 4th for me, but if you were celebrating the 4th, then that's what's up. Let me know if you were celebrating the 4th as well. So what's going on with these lights, man? This is the thing, man. When you go live, your lights be working all the time, right? As soon as you go live, crazy stuff starts happening. So let's try to get them lights straight, man. Let me know where y'all at, though. I'm down here in Miami. Bruh, hold on one second, man. It's too crazy. All right. So we back. Lights messing up. But anyhow, before we talk about the whole thing with Diddy being sued again for about the 10th time, I'm not sure if it's 10, if it's approximately 10. There's a young man. So Julio Fulio. Let me know if you ever heard of Julio Fulio, right? I know Cole got that line like never heard of these rappers till somebody murdered these rappers, and that's definitely the case. Julio Fulio is from my state. He's from Jacksonville area, and he was murdered in Tampa a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago or so. And apparently, he had already been shot multiple times, and he would make raps at people's graves about them, talking about them. So he wasn't necessarily the most liked, but I want to share something related to Fulio. Give me just one second, and I'll get this up for y'all.
Remembered as when he dies.
In the event you do pass away, what do you want to be remembered for?
As a funny, good-hearted young man with love his people. I think about death every day. Like I could die today, I could lose one of my dogs today.
Are you afraid of it?
Mm-mm.
Why not? Some people are.
I don't been shot before. So I don't seen death a couple times, but no matter who you is, bro, anybody could die. You could die wherever, whenever, however.
When it comes to death, is it something you're financially prepared for?
Yeah, I got life insurance, so I'm gonna be straight.
Some people also have a will.
I don't got that. I got a little money set aside, but I ain't got a will.
Man, so super sad. The dude was 26. He was celebrating his 26th birthday. Died 2 days later. Somebody ran up on him. He in a Holiday Inn parking lot, and shot him at close range with an assault rifle. Story that I read. So R.I.P. to Julio Fulio. Some people think he faked his death because his social media is still popping. They had a post where he popped up, where they had him popping up out of a grave. Out of a casket like the Undertaker. So he jumped up, popped up out the casket. So some people saying they think he might have faked, but I seriously doubt that's the case. One thing though I can say for Julio Fulio is that he did the smart thing. He did have life insurance. Obviously, he kind of knew his time was probably not going to be too long on the earth based off of how he was moving or had the potential to be. So he did have life insurance. That was smart. But then also, where he kind of messed up, he said he didn't have a will. He did not have an estate plan. So arguably, I don't know what his assets was like, but for a lot of people, you want to have more than just a will for your estate plan. So we'll probably talk about that and dig into that a little deeper. They have different types of trusts. They have all types of different ways that you can set your assets up so that you can make sure that the next generation are good stewards of um, everything that you earn and that your legacy is intact. But I don't want to keep y'all long today. I only have one other story. We're about to talk about it. Diddy, the man is being sued again for sexual assault, and it's crazy to see how much this dude, how much bad this dude possibly put into the world. I mean, I'm not the type to believe that these lawsuits is just being made up. All of these complaints that are being filed have pictures of people at his house, at his parties, photos with him, his friends, everything. So um, let me know if you ever heard of Adria English. That's the lady who's suing Diddy. Her name is Adria English. She also was a porn star at one point. I don't know if she's still, or well, I don't want to say a star, but she also performed in some pornographic videos. All right. On stage, she went by the name Unique. So for the connoisseurs out there, I wouldn't consider myself one, but I know some of y'all attend conventions and know all of the people on the videos. If that's you, do you know I'm unique? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. So we're gonna dig into this, but apparently she was also trying to be a model. She met Diddy at a Sean John model audition, and in the lawsuit, and it's a crazy long lawsuit, y'all. It's 111 pages, 114 pages, um, and we'll start with who they're suing. So, um, Sean Combs, aka P Diddy, Diddy, Puff, Puff Daddy, Puffy, and Brother Love, Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, Sean John Clothing, Combs Global Enterprises, Tamiko Thomas, Jacob Arabov, who a lot of people in hip hop know as Jacob the Jeweler, Vibe Magazine, Penske Media Corporation, as well as like you always see, John and Jane Doe's and organizational Doe's 1 through 10. So they're naming a lot of people. They're trying to make sure that whoever could have some liability is named in this complaint. Um, they talk about all of the different lawsuits that have been filed. They mentioned different people, Trey Songz, who Diddy had been in another lawsuit involving Trey Songz previously. They mentioned Chris Brown, who in one of the other lawsuits, they alleged underage girls were performing as sex workers. And, they just are talking about this is coming out of the Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Law and the Gender Motivated Violence Act in New York City. So, yeah, man. So basically, part of it is that she alleges that Puffy wanted her boyfriend to perform oral sex on him in exchange for a job, but her boyfriend refused. Um, she says that her boyfriend was given another chance at a modeling gig if he convinced her to perform as a sex worker or as a go-go dancer at one of Diddy's parties in the Hamptons. Everybody, back in the day probably has heard of some of these white parties that happened in the Hamptons, Long Island. So they worked the party in 2004. And then she says she worked at other parties for Diddy and that her drinks were laced with ecstasy and she was encouraged to flirt with guests. So we do have images of Miss English. So these images are alleged to have been from the party. So this is her on the left at the white party. And then on the right, this is her with Jacob the jeweler. So, I mean, you can see it right there for sure. That this is who is making the lawsuit. So now that you see the picture, do any of y'all remember I'm Unique from at all? So they introduce all the actual parties to the lawsuit. So I'll show you the lawsuit. Like I said, I named all the people who are in the lawsuit right here. But then they talk about all the other lawsuits that were filed. Like I mentioned, Trey Songz, Chris Brown. Kind of messed up. They used a picture of Chris in the jumpsuit. But they talk about his relationship with Vibe magazine. Due to their conspiracy in the sex trafficking enterprise, the defendants knew they could publish plaintiff's likeness without her consent and fear of recourse, and chose plaintiff's likeness to use without permission to continue the defendant's sex trafficking. So they're saying that they were complicit in the sex trafficking. All right, so this is in New York, as we mentioned. And then the parties. So Sean Combs, they have here, say that he lives in California and Florida. He was but at the time when this happened, they said he was a resident of New York. So that's why they can bring this lawsuit in New York. All right. Bad Boy Records, obviously that's Diddy's company. Combs Global, also Diddy's company. Tamiko Thomas, we've heard about her in some other suits, but basically they say in her employment capacity, she was responsible for transporting and making payment to individuals like the plaintiff in furtherance of a corrupt organization of sex trafficking. So they're saying that she was like the middle person who was actually coordinating the payments and the workers at these parties. Jacob the jeweler, we talked about as well. So he's the guy who a lot of people used to go to back in the day to get their jewelry. And you see her pictured here with him. And they talk about when he was sentenced to prison, he attended parties, and they say that he had sex with her at one of these parties. So then Vibe magazine, we talked about Penske Media Corporation. Defendant PMC is the owner and parent company of the defendant Vibe, so they're being brought in as a defendant as well. And then we mentioned John Doe's 1 through 10. So now we got the plaintiff, an individual who is a resident of California. She had moved to New York, and she was an actor in the adult film industry. So according to this complaint, while she was a teenager, she filmed some scenes with Jake Steed, telling her, let me know if you remember Jake Steed from back in the day as well. He was one of the main guys that you would hear about if you knew anything about those types of, videos or whatever. You would hear about Jake Steed, but he told her that these videos would never be viewed or circulated within the United States. So she thought she was doing some stuff that was going to be, I guess, seen overseas. But this shows you Sugar Walls number 7, Booty Talk number 4, as examples of some of the movies which she participated. Her boyfriend right here at the time, who, Puffy, they say, allegedly asked for oral sex. So they talk about, like I mentioned, he was auditioning to be a Sean John model, and they were invited to come work at the parties and all that stuff. So here we go. Plaintiff's employment at defendant's Labor Day white party. So let me know in the chat if you've ever heard of the Labor Day white party that Diddy used to do in the Hamptons. So it states here that as agreed to by Mr. Gallo, which is the ex-boyfriend, defendant Thomas, which is Tamiko, the go-between who made the payments, defendants Combs, Sean John, BBE, Bad Boy Entertainment. Plaintiff began her employment at the white parties thrown by defendant Combs and Bad Boy Entertainment called the White Party. And Mr. Gallo began his employment as a Sean John model. So here you can see him as a model for one of the Sean John ads. So that was the quid pro quo. One, you do something for me, I'll do something for you. That got him into the modeling, right? So they say that happened summer 2004, man. And here's the photo that we saw before. This was published in Vibe magazine. Plaintiff believed this to be legitimate employment. She was picked up by defendant Tamiko Thomas and driven in a car by one of the defendant Does to work at the party. So they're saying that they were provided the outfits, so everything was coordinated by the defendants. Plaintiff was encouraged directly by defendant Thomas to provide lap dances and be sexually flirtatious with guests at the white party, right? So we see that. And then Diddy himself told her who to focus her energy on specifically. They're claiming that they were given alcohol with the intent, which bottles of alcohol, champagne, female employees were exclusively to drink from, and required plaintiff to take narcotics offered by a guest. So, they're saying that they were forced to drink this alcohol, take narcotics, and that it was laced with ecstasy. So, at this first party, they're kind of talking about the activities where she was thanked for her job, but you don't hear anything about sex yet. And she was invited for future employment at more parties, paid in cash at the end of the night. So here we go. So the first white party had no sinister intent or requirements. So when plaintiff was offered employment in the preceding years, she accepted the employment opportunity. Plaintiff was employed as entertainment at the future parties. Always transported. So they're just saying that this was like a very intentional organizational way that they were getting them to the parties. So defendant Thomas and Combs groomed plaintiff into sex trafficking over time. Around the third party, defendant Thomas and Combs demanded plaintiff begin engaging in vaginal sexual intercourse with guests as they learned about her past in adult entertainment, and used it forcefully to coerce plaintiff into sex work for the benefit of all the defendants. So let me know if someone forced you to do that, based on your past, would you believe that you were in a position where you would have to do that? I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are here. But this particular plaintiff did feel forced and probably somewhat stuck because they drove her there. She was there to work and to make the money, so she probably needed the money anyway. But so this time they gave her a black dress, and they said she believes she was required to wear black to denote her capacity there as an employee, but more sinisterly as a sex trafficked worker. So that makes sense to be the code, possibly. Anybody that's wearing white as a guest, or they're not up on what's going on with the sex workers, but if you see them in black, do your thing. All right. So then defendant Jacob was demanded by defendant Combs to engage in sexual intercourse during this particular white party. So she said she was fearing for her safety, but her then boyfriend's job security. So she did as she was instructed. All right. So again, that's her with the boyfriend back in the day. Again, more alcohol laced prior to having these sexual encounters. This is Jacob the jeweler and her in the black dress. Plaintiff received an additional $1,000 in cash on top of what she had received as payment at the prior two white parties from the defendant at the end of the night. At the end of the night, Combs personally congratulated plaintiff for following his directives with defendant Jacob and for a job well done. So the plaintiff also stating that she witnessed the defendants Tamiko Thomas, Jacob, and Combs solicit and ingest narcotics during their sex acts. She said she was also employed at the Miami residence on Star Island. Similarly, car service. So it's just a lot they're going through. But basically, she's alleging, that she was a victim of sexual assault on numerous occasions, and based on the relationship, the unequal relationships, she felt that she needed to do what was asked of her by Diddy and all of the other parties. So I don't know, but sad to see that this is what's happening with Diddy. A lot of people claim now, oh yeah, everybody knew this, everybody knew that, but wow, I mean, for those of us that's not in the industry, you're not necessarily shocked, but to see so many instances where it's just going down like this, it is a little bit shocking, to be honest. So I hate to see all of these victims. They can't all be lying, right? Even if some of them are lying, right? Maybe some of them are, but I can't think of one that didn't have photos or any type of other things that suggest that what they're saying could have validity. So, I feel for all these victims. I feel for their families and everybody that's affected by it. And to the extent that these things are true, I hope they're able to get justice. All of these instances are being denied by Diddy's lawyers, his PR people, him personally, and as you would expect, right? And I'm not sure if any of them fall within any of the statute of limitation for criminal prosecution, but they're all alleging that due to these new laws that were brought into play for sex assault, trafficking, etc., to be able to go beyond the original statute of limitations, that these civil cases could have merit and allow for these people to get money as damages for what happened to them. So let me know what you think. I mean, do you believe that Diddy is guilty of all? What are y'all's thoughts here? Curious to know. So we're going to be hearing a lot more about it. It's going to keep going on and on. I'm sure that 50 has something to say already. I hadn't had a chance to check on what 50 was saying, but I know he has something to say about everything. He's supposedly making his own movie that he's trying to sell about Diddy. And we're going to keep following this story, but we're just, as far as the show goes, we're still, figuring it out, trying to find the time that works best for everybody to make sure that we can, get the most people on, make sure that it's at a time where people are available and that we're actually bringing you the information that you're interested in knowing about. So we're not going to stop doing that. That's still the intent behind the show. And if there's anything that you want to know about or that, that we haven't talked about, definitely let me know so that we can promote it and have it in the upcoming shows. Today we tried Friday at 3 Eastern. We might go back to Friday at 12 at some point, or maybe even Thursday. We started on Thursdays at 3, and we might go back to that. I don't know yet. So we got a lot to do. Holla at me when you need legal information, need legal advice, need counsel. You know what I'm saying? We're working with lawyers nationwide in order to be able to get you the legal services that you need, whether it's personal injury like what I do, like car accidents and slip and falls, whether it's you need an estate plan like a will or a trust, if you happen to get into some type of criminal situation, you need a good criminal defense lawyer. We have a nationwide network for all these things and more. So just holler at me at the time when you need me, and I got you. So that's this week's show. We'll be back to you next week with some more. Appreciate you staying tuned. Holla at your boy.